Welcome to another
pretending I'm into the
episode.
intro. What? I'm joking.
Welcome to another episode of Roll or Die. We love to bring you the OGs on this show, and today's guest is definitely one of those. He is a longtime member of Dominance. He is probably well known to most of our listeners out there, and if he isn't, he's going to be known after this episode. He's Joseph Hemingway. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks a lot. What number are we up to for these podcasts?
We're getting up into
180
200, bro.
something. Close to 200.
Oh, my God. Oh, you should have saved me for the 200th episode.
I know. We can always get you back. We can get you back.
Well, actually, I think with Dominance, I need to check this with Dave, but I think I'm the oldest member, as in from the beginning. Like, I still remember walking in the front door when it first opened, which I don't know what year that was, but it was early 2000s. And then Byron, who's a black belt at our club, he was at a similar time, but I think I got in maybe a month before him. And so I think he'd be the second oldest. He was the first black belt at Dominance, but I predated him. He just got there faster, much faster.
Awesome. Actually, what is your theory about like evolution in jiu-jitsu? Like, when people get there faster, is it mat time? Is it club favorites? Is it genetic?
Oh, God.
Is it work ethic? Is it education? What is it?
That's a tough question to answer because there's so many different black belts. There's those black belts who are just machines who just get through it fast because they're genetically gifted. There's people like me who just grind and grind and grind and eventually get there. And then there's an interesting question of can anyone get a black belt if you're really uncoordinated? But you get to training first and you leave last and you're there for 20 years. Do you get a black belt? I don't know the answer, but I've had that conversation with many people. Everyone's got a different opinion. Some people say, no, you have to be awesome. You definitely have to be able to defend yourself. If you're getting tapped all the time, I don't think you can be a black belt. But if you're not that good, but you've got really good defense and you've put the time and effort in, I think maybe you can make it.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
What do you guys think?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think you've definitely got to be able to withstand pressure, like however it comes, because let's face it, like you eat shit a lot, especially at the start, and you got to be able to kind of suck it up. Oh yeah, still, at the start and at the end, always, But you got to be able to suck that up, and you can't be getting too down on yourself about those things because that's just the way jiu-jitsu is. It is like that. So
it always.
And I remember.
Okay.
Like even at the start, when I first started doing jiu-jitsu, and when I started, my coaches were blue belts. I had two blue belts from two different gyms. One was Monash Caulfield, which was Pete Polygenis, and the other one was Jeremy Ducote from Malvern Martial Arts. And I was a white belt, obviously, but they were both blue belts. And I'd been training. In my mind, it feels like it was years, but it was probably only 6 months or a year before Dominance opened. And I still remember rocking up to Dominance and walking in the door for the first time. And there was Cam Rowe, who was a purple, and Dave Christic, who was a brown at the time. And I'd never seen one. I just never seen anything above blue. And they were gods. They were just so good. They could do everything. And, at the time, all I had was a triangle. And I didn't really know any other moves because there was no one else to really show you apart from the instructor. And now black belts almost becoming commonplace. There's so many of them. And at the start, it was not. I think I was at the time. I thought at the time. I think it was 2004 when John Simons got his black belt, and I thought at the time that was the first black belt to be given in Australia. So I don't know does anyone know of anyone before then?
You mean before John Will and Pete Devine? Because they got theirs overseas, you mean?
They got
within Australia. Yeah.
Yeah, so not the first Australian, but the first on Australian soil was, I believe, John Simon. And that was 2004 or something.
Yeah. Well, there's another name we can get on the podcast, but
absolutely.
Apart from Jeremy,
he's awesome.
Everyone else that you mentioned, we've already had as guests on this show.
John Simons is just an encyclopedia. He knows everything. Just you can ask him any question, and he'll have not one answer, 13 answers. How they
amazing. I wonder now that you've got me thinking about like gods, right? Like as you said, when you saw a brown belt or something like that, they were a god. Like what I find myself looking up to nowadays is like the phenoms. They could even be a blue belt and they're tapping black belts. Like I don't know if you guys are the same as me, But like, I feel like there's some people out there who just, I don't know what they conjure and from where, but these people, they're the people who I just think, like, I look up to you because I don't know how far you can go with this thing if you're already doing this. Like, that's what I don't know. I find
I don't like those guys. I don't like
hate
them
them.
at all.
I hate
They beat
them.
me up. They're
I've
too
got a
good.
theory about those. You go first, Joseph.
Well, yeah, I think and I've been around for 20 years, and I know the kind of people you're talking about, and I think they tend not to last.
Yeah.
They tend to come in and they do great and they're kicking ass. And there's another guy in the room who you don't notice, who's just there. And over the years, the guy is kicking ass. He just stops because the challenge isn't there for him, and things come easy for him. But the guy who's grinding, he's there all the time. He's the guy who gets the black belt, and he's the guy who's better in the long run because he embraces how difficult it is to do jiu-jitsu, getting bashed every day. And I'm sure that story isn't common to me. Like I think that would be in every gym. The guy, the most unassuming guy, give it 10 years, he's destroying everyone. And the guy who's the stud, he's off doing something else, partying or whatever else. But that guy with the work ethic, he just keeps going, never misses a session. He's the guy who tears it up.
Oh, you give me hope, brother. Thank you.
On the back of that, Joseph, I also think the ones who come in and train like 12 times a week, just killing it, you just can't maintain that for very long. I
fell victim.
That, 3 to 4 times a week, that's ideal because you can maintain that and hopefully have some kind of life outside of jiu-jitsu with your family, with your significant other, with your job. But training that much, it's very hard to maintain. You'll burn out. So those people also tend not to last. Those ones that come in and kill it, but then by the time they get to purple belt, they drop off because no one can train that much. Your body will just break.
Well, that's my story. So I had the exact same experience of just training 2 or 3 times a day when I started and getting up to purple belt, and I just burnt out on it. And I've, like a lot of us do, I have that OCD kind of personality that I get too involved in something to the detriment of everything else in my life. All I'm thinking about is jiu-jitsu and arm bars and kimuras. And when I got to purple belt, I stopped because I was just training too much. And then eventually I had kids and then got back into exercise and didn't enjoy it. And then I thought, okay, I've got to get back to jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu is the only exercise that I look forward to. When I'm driving to the gym, I'm happy. Okay, this is great. But if I'm driving to the gym to do bench press or something, I don't look forward to that. It's a chore. Jiu-jitsu is pleasure. It's great fun.
Agreed.
Yeah. What were you going to say, Anton?
Yeah, I was going to say that, like, for me, haven't really had a break. Like, I had COVID as a break. Actually, you were talking about your black belt, as you got your black belt, and then COVID struck.
I was saying,
had a decent break then. So, what was that break like?
Well, I was making the point then. So we Dominance used to be in Richmond, and it moved to Abbotsford, and I was scheduled to get my black belt at the end of 2019, and it got delayed because we were moving gyms. And then I was about to go on holidays, and it clashed with when the grading was going to be. I thought, oh no, I'll go on family holidays because I can get the black belt anytime. And well, not anytime, but I'll do it at the next grading. And next time is a better way to phrase it. And then and I thought, oh no, this is such a bucket list thing to do. And the first time I started jiu-jitsu, I knew I was going to get a black belt because I just valued it so much. It was just that, it's like seeing Everest going, okay, I'm going to climb that mountain because I value it so much. I'll eventually get there. So I was pretty confident I'd always get it. But then I thought, oh, if I go on a holiday, something could happen. I could break my leg, and then you never achieve it. So just lock it in and get it. And I did the grading. I got my black belt, and it was 2 weeks later. Everything got shut down with COVID, and so much can happen in such a short period of time. Dominance could have, like all these other gyms, could have gone out of business. Anything could have happened, and then you never get that black belt, which we all understand how hard it is. It was actually, I was reading something the other day that came up in my Facebook feed. It was Conor McGregor put up a post how many years ago saying all he wanted was his UFC belts, 25 million. He wanted to be in the Hall of Fame for UFC, and he wanted a black belt. So that was one of his things,
Up against those others.
He recently got it. So They are amazing. They're so special to finally get one. You know, we all understand how difficult it is. And of all the things I've achieved in my life outside my family, my black belt is the thing I'm proud of most.
Yeah.
Wow, man.
So, Joseph, tell us how you got started in jiu-jitsu. So you said you thought it was around 2004. That's pretty early days.
Yeah, it would have been even earlier than that. If I was trying to think about it the other day, so it was me and my brother who were talking about it earlier. We watched Lethal Weapon 4, and Jet Li was in it. And after that, we just wanted to be ninjas because we just Jet Li's so awesome. And we went down to a karate club out in Bentley, Dom Amato, and he had something there called shoot fighting, which was jiu-jitsu. It was no gi jiu-jitsu. And this would have been late 90s. And we were doing that. It wasn't gi, we're just wearing t-shirts and tracksuit pants. But it was 100% jiu-jitsu. It was very joint lock focused. So a lot of it was very unsophisticated in terms of guard, but you start in side control and you'd have 60 submissions just on different joint locks with the arm. And then from that, we then went to Caulfield Monash and Malvern Martial Arts, which is where Pete Polygenis and Jeremy Ducote were. And that's when we started jiu-jitsu. And then I remember starting jiu-jitsu thinking, wow, guard's a real thing. So I knew all the positions beforehand, but I didn't realize how complicated guard was. There was to it. And we started doing that. And then from there, I remember when Dominance opened, and I went to Dominance, as I said, I still remember walking in with Camero and Dave Christic being there, being the first belts I'd ever seen above blue belt. And I also started training out in Footscray at Sam Parker's. He had a wrestling club out there, and training with Ali Abdu. I remember the first time I met Talgut out there. So I thought I was pretty good because I'd been grappling for a little while. And Talgut came in, and I didn't know who he was. He was a pretty unassuming guy. And I hadn't seen him wrestling before. We just got paired up together. And he had very, very broken English at the time. And he obviously realized I was just a complete novice. And he just kept saying to me, what have you learned today? You do it. And he was letting me shoot him doing single legs and double legs on him. And it was only afterwards that I realized he's this, star prodigy machine, probably the most gifted grappler I've ever grappled against. And it was kind of a good lesson that you don't have to destroy people. People just completely destroyed me, but he let me do all my techniques. He nurtured me and taught me, and he didn't even know who I was. Like I'm just some chump that's walked into the wrestling club. And I thought that was really impressive because he's grappling royalty. So that was, And then after that, he ended up coming down to Dominance, became the wrestling coach. Dominance was and still is such a great place. It was such a hub of activity. We had people like Dan Kelly come down when he was training up, and there's just all these great grapplers coming through the front door. You're so gifted to wrestled Olympians. They're walking our front door all the time. And it's pretty blessed to roll with some of these big names.
Absolutely. I can relate to that. We had Alexander Volkanovski come and train at Absolute quite often, and I was paired up with him for a class once, and he wasn't big.
What was that like?
This is the thing. Like, he was not famous. Like, he was just on the beginning.
But he would have been big then, right? That's probably when he was a big boy before.
He was big, but not in name. Like, he wasn't famous.
Sure.
And now he's a household name, which is pretty cool. But yeah,
imagine he must be like a pit bull.
Yeah, a lot of like Dominance and Absolute, especially when Tiago was around, they tend to share their big names and kind of go train at both
all the time
and all of that sort of stuff.
Yeah, well, I remember Lockie Giles coming down all the time. Who's, he's absolute royalty, and he would come down all the time. I still remember him from Hangar 4. I think he was 16 at the time and going down to Hangar 4. Hangar 4 was, I wish it was, is it still around? I don't, if it's still around, I don't think it's what it used to be.
I think it is. I think it is. Isn't it in the northern suburbs? And it's like, pretty sure.
Or somewhere like that.
Yeah, I think it is.
The thing I loved about Hangar 4 was you'd go out and it was like the level from Street Fighter where you fight Guile, where I don't know if people would be old enough to know that reference, but it's at an airport. There's planes landing in the background, and I fully felt like I was in Street Fighter. It was awesome, and there's so many good people out there.
Yeah, Hangar 4 MMA. They're in Reservoir now.
It's still around.
Yeah.
Okay.
Newlands Road. May not be the same. I don't know. Like,
I wonder if Pyro
our events out there. Yeah, this is them now.
Yeah, that's not the same place. It used to be run by Tyrone Cross, who I remember he was a brown belt at the time, and just rolling against him and just I've never felt pressure like it. And his chokes, just you're trying to grapple him, and the whole time you're half choked out. He's hanging on these chokes. He was so good.
Awesome.
Tell us about this, Joseph, this picture.
So this is I was around at my brother's place and I saw some of his niece's pictures, Amelia, and I said to Amelia, "That is so good. You have to draw me a picture of me and my brother, so we're the two in the middle, and all our kids, and and you need to give it to me for my birthday." And she did. She spent 2 months drawing this picture.
Wow.
So yeah, it's me and George in the middle. George is a purple belt, and he's been around for as long as I have. He's awesome. He should well overdue for a brown belt.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are 2 of my kids and 3 of his kids.
Awesome, man.
Awesome.
How good's that?
It's such a great.
How old is she that drew this picture?
She's 11. So
wow.
yeah, Amelia drew it, and then in there is her brother Oliver and her sister Eloise, and then my kids Mia and Marcus.
Yeah.
There's your they're all good at here. Is this your kids?
My kid's on the far right, and then second from the left.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. That's so cool, man.
Yeah. My mum actually has that picture at the moment. She's getting it framed for all of us. So everyone in the family's going to have a copy of it.
And so did you and your brother, like we've had guests on in the past who started when they were quite young and their siblings started at a similar time and they would, I guess, practice together. Did you guys do that as well when you were coming up?
We drilled all the time together. So every time we went to class, we'd learn certain techniques and we would just drill them again and again and again. And that's really how you get good at anything, I think, just those volume drilling.
Not if you're a Kit Dale student. He's like, don't do drills.
Well, Kit Dale's just he's just genetically gifted. He's awesome.
Yeah.
And
he's one of those guys
for just normal people like me, you need to drill. I need to do it so many times. And the longer I've gone through jiu-jitsu, the less techniques I drill. I just do less and less and less, but I still drill just as much. But I've just built my game, and I'm down to the point where I jokingly say it after I roll with people, but it's true. I've only really got 2 moves. Yeah. But those 2 moves have branching patterns that it becomes very, very complex. Yeah. But it has one single point, one start point that you go through. You obviously need to know everything because you need to defend everything. Mm-hmm. But I don't need to do everything. I don't need to know Spider Guard. I need to know how to defend it. But it's not a guard for me. I don't like any techniques that are dependent on the gi. So I prefer to have all my techniques be predominantly no gi. Mm-hmm. And then when I'm rolling with someone in the gi, I will grab it if it's a cherry on top and will make the position a little bit stronger. But if it's fundamentally dependent on the gi, then it's not for me. I don't want to have 2 games. I don't have time to have 2 kind of completely different games. Which some people do, but I'm too simple these days.
I wish I'd followed that, and my hands wouldn't look like this now from relying so much on the gi.
My hands are perfect. I don't have any finger issues.
Wow.
Anytime someone's trying to really dog a grip, I let it go. And I feel like the more they're trying to dog it, they're just focusing too much on it. There's so much more going on. But other people would completely disagree with me. Get your grip, hold on to it to the death. But I just let it go, and I'll just you can win that battle, and I'll win another battle on the other side of the board. And now my fingers are fine. I have had one finger get dislocated in a armbar. That was just a freak accident. It just got caught up in the gi. But just let go and try and just try not to grab the gi too much. I actually think the grips, if you just get a good wrist grip, I think that's a lot stronger than actually grabbing the sleeve. And if they try and break it, let it go and take something else. I think those battles don't really matter. There's larger battles to have. And I'll be rolling with someone, I feel they'll be grabbing my gi, just like they're grabbing around my waist and they're holding onto the gi. And it's just such a weak grip. If you have a friction grip and you just have your whole arm suction cupped onto the back, I think that is a lot stronger than grabbing the gi itself.
I think what I also like about that is that like jiu-jitsu is not about being the stronger opponent, and if you can let go of a grip, if you can believe in your jiu-jitsu so much that you're like, you really want that grip, have it. I'll adjust. That is like
I think
the
I
essence of
think jiu-jitsu
jiu-jitsu,
is a
right
lot
there.
about strength. I use a lot of strength. So
Okay.
don't get me wrong, I'm not just letting things go, but yeah, usually after I roll with someone, and if they're going to give me a compliment afterwards, they're not saying you're really fast, explosive, really technical. It's just you're very strong and very difficult to move. And there's technique in that. I don't let myself get moved out of position.
Right.
I don't let people get anything on me. I won't let my arms get exposed because that's just fear of injury. If you let your arms flap in the breeze, eventually something's going to go wrong and you're going to get caught.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean you're completely destroying your opponent. I'll let them pass my guard and whatnot if I'm playing around with someone, but I won't let my arm get extended because that's when you're going to get into trouble. So I always keep a really tight, strong, immovable game. And then just pressure. I try and cook people with pressure, and eventually, if I can get what I want, they break from the pressure and you get past the guard, or the case might be.
Yeah, awesome, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, I use a lot of strength.
That's good to know.
Speaking of strength, so I believe that you're a big Arnie fan. Is that right?
Oh, I am a huge Arnie fan.
Tell us, so what's your favorite 80s action movie?
I'd probably have to be Predator. Yeah.
Which
Pretty
one?
hard to go past Predator.
Predator. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
That's a pretty cool movie.
Yeah. I also love movies like RoboCop. RoboCop is such a great movie. Die Hard.
I do not remember Arnie in RoboCop, man. This is an Arnie.
Oh no, but I'm jumping just to the 80s in general.
Just
I'm
80s
a product
movies,
of my time.
Okay.
Yeah, no, huge Arnie fan. Yeah.
Yeah, I asked for some dirt on you, and that was pretty much all I could get. So
that's not very dirty.
Yeah.
You asked the wrong person, clearly.
Yeah.
But 80s was a time for like cheesy lines in action movies. Do you ever use them when you're like submitting someone? Like, whatever.
I love trash talking people.
No.
Yeah. If I'm rolling with someone, the thing I like about jiu-jitsu the most is when you finish the hard session and everyone's sitting up against the wall and you're just talking shit about each other and slagging on each other. That's just a lot of fun. I think eventually when we're all gonna have to retire at some point, that's what I'm gonna miss the most. It's just sitting up against the wall when you're all a sweaty mess.
Yeah.
And just ragging each other.
I need to do more sitting up against the wall as a sweaty mess. I don't do that, right? I go to the gym, I do my class, I go as best as I can, and then I get out of there because I'm always going to the next thing. So I'm missing out on something here. I'm missing out on the sweaty.
That's the fun part.
There's I'm missing out on lots of photo opportunities because that's where all the good jiu-jitsu photos seem to happen. But also, like, is it an important part of jiu-jitsu, the sweaty wall mess hang? Is it?
Yeah, I did the sweaty wall mess hang, and then after every jiu-jitsu session, I always do weights.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, Dominance has a good gym there, weight gym.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can do your session and then chat to the boys and girls afterwards, and then I'm already warmed up and there's a gym there. So if I go straight to the change rooms, I tend to have to wait for a shower. So it's gonna take a little while. So I just go straight into the gym. I do a 10-minute workout. And I think that's one of the keys to longevity in this sport is I think you need to get your joints and you need to load them under heavy weights and load them to the point where you can still control the weight. I think once you start shaking or you're heading towards failure, I think that's too heavy if you're doing jiu-jitsu at the same time. But just get it as heavy as you can and control it perfectly and do as many reps as you can. And that's it. Your joints will love you for it.
Love
I think you
don't issues. Find that you're too fatigued for that straight after a jiu-jitsu session?
I just don't think you need that much energy to do weights. So I think even if you're fatigued from rolling and you just go in and do bench press 2 sets, I think you can still do it, especially if you had a 10-minute break in between. Could I do another round? No, I couldn't do another 5-minute round, but I could do a set of bench press that goes for 30 seconds, and especially if I've waited a little bit. So I think it's a good habit to get into. Just do that after each time. And I find I tend, when I'm leaving, I've had my shower, I'm walking out, I tend to be leaving at the same time as everyone else anyway, because they've been sitting around chit-chatting. But I've got this workout.
Yeah. Actually, I've just recently put into my game. I do my weight. I get to the gym either between 10 and 20 minutes early, and I do a group of muscles before training. It's really because I wasn't getting my weights in. and I knew I was heading for injury. In fact, I'm dealing with a few things right now. I was like, no, you got to start lifting.
Yeah.
So I just thought I'll chuck it at the front end, but chucking in the back end also makes good sense, man. I might try that out for myself and see as well.
Well, I think you're already warm. Before the class, I do a rung ergo. So I do a 1,500-meter rung ergo to warm up and fatigue myself a bit. Then I do my rounds, and then I do the weights afterwards. And I tend to do the weights afterwards because I just feel like it's the least important. So I think everything else is more important. And if I have a really hard session on the mats and my weights suffer because of it, I'm happy with that. But I don't want my jiu-jitsu session to suffer because of my weights. And also, every time I've been injured in jiu-jitsu, there's usually been a failure of strength there somewhere where, you know, someone's gone, I've gone for a shot, someone's sprawled, and perhaps they should have won the position and got to my back, but I've just collapsed or something's happened and my knee's gone. And that's why when I do the jiu-jitsu sessions, I want to make sure I'm at my strongest. And also when I do my jiu-jitsu sessions, I try not to redline. I don't want to go too hard. If you want to go hard, do that. Go for a run and run yourself into the ground, or jump on the ergo. Redline yourself there because it's safe. But I think if you're doing jiu-jitsu, you start getting tired, your brain gets foggy. That's when mistakes happen. So as part of avoiding injuries, I want to be strong. I want to be focused and alert. And yeah, touch wood, I tend not to get injured much if I follow those rules.
So what injuries have you had, Joseph? Tell us.
I've had
We've only got 9 minutes left if there's too many.
No, I haven't
50.
I have not had that many injuries. I've had niggling things, like everyone has niggling things. You know, meniscus issues in my knees and whatnot, but I've never had anything that's taken me out for a serious amount of time.
Oh, wow.
My game's very conservative. I have this, I call it the 4 Amigo rules, which is, or the 4 Amigo rule, that at every time I have to be protecting my 4 amigos, which is my legs and my hands. It's really 5 if I include my head. And if you're passing someone's guard and your leg is caught up in their guard, you have to go back and defend your arm. It's more important to protect yourself.
Don't live in the trenches. I see.
No one's left behind. No one's left behind. And if you feel like, oh, but I've almost got this, and you're 90% sure you've got that, but he has 10% of something on you, go defend the 10%.
But what about a kamikaze amigo? Like, I sometimes use my leg, I keep it in there. Like, it's like, you stay back while I go for the neck here, and I'll use that to kind of pin their body. Is a kamikaze amigo okay?
But I think that works, you know, most of the time, but eventually you roll that dice and the leg's left behind and it gets injured. So, so I prefer to just run everything behind, keep in line, defend all my joints, and protect everything. I don't care if it seems like just a little thing they've got. Don't let them build up an attack on any joint, and just undo it all, even if that means you're undoing more of your game. Because if your game's good enough, you should be able to get back what you had in the first place anyway. And if you do it for long enough, something unexpected will happen. And that's when the joint gets jarred. So I just try and stay out of those positions.
That's cool.
And so you've been around for like more than 20 years. Tell us about some of the changes you've seen in the scene since you started.
Well, when I talked about, I got to purple belt and I took probably a 5 or 6 year break. And I remember coming back and I didn't even recognize jiu-jitsu. I'd never seen a Darce choke before. So I was like, what the hell? I was doing underhook escapes and people are darsing me. I didn't even know that was an option. That was really surprising. Obviously didn't know what a Berimbolo was. And even De La Riva, I remember when I stopped, we called it outside hook. And I just thought it was useless. You know, it was like 1 or 2 moves you could do from there. And they weren't that great. And then I came back, everyone was doing De La Riva, and it was devastating. I actually think it was devastating. There's so many techniques in there, but I think a lot of the old school techniques have been forgotten as well. So I was actually having a lot of success just bringing back some of those old moves. But they were having a lot of success against me because I hadn't seen any of this new stuff. So it's incredible how fast jiu-jitsu evolves. Just leave the mat for 3 months and come back. People will be doing all this new stuff they've never seen before.
Wow.
So, and I think that's what makes it so effective is that it's just continually adapting to new problems. And when you look at your older traditional martial arts, they don't. They're just static. These are the moves. They always work. And jiu-jitsu is different. Just it's an evolution sport.
That's so cool, man. I've
Yeah.
never thought about it that way, but yeah, jiu-jitsu is different. In fact, there's the name for the podcast. I'm thinking jiu-jitsu is different. It's an evolution sport because yeah, like one of the things I kind of beat myself up, and I literally have seen black belts who can't do single X and X. I took it upon myself as a late purple belt to really get a hold of these things, which I should have known a long time ago, right? But the thing is, I hadn't. Like I'd done them, but never put them in my game. And then I'm realizing it's forgivable to be a black belt and to not be able to do or demonstrate all of the techniques because there are so many. It's a moving target. When you get your black belt, it's a whole different world to the world that you're in as a black belt, say 10 years later. It's the belt you never kind of get off most of the time. And so if someone says, do a, blah, 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 there's a good chance you've never properly studied it. It's like there's so many moving parts to this thing. So would you agree with that?
Go back to that picture before of my brother with my nephew and nieces, my kids. Sure. My son came up to me, Marcus, and said, "Oh, Dad, can you show me the scissor sweep?" And I know how to do a scissor sweep. We all know how to do a scissor sweep, but I can't do a really effective scissor sweep. Like I wouldn't be able to scissor sweep a blue belt, I don't think, because when I learned it, I was like, oh, this really isn't for me. I won't really do it. But Oliver, who's in that picture, he's 14. He has an amazing scissor sweep. He's a
is this the guy
belt. Him, yeah, his scissor sweep is awesome. And I watch him when he's scissor sweeping other people in his class, and he's setting it up. There's a strategy, there's a whole game plan. And then my boy's saying to me, teach me scissor sweep. And I'm saying, no, go learn from the grey belt. His scissor sweep's better than mine, and I'm a black belt. He has so much levels of detail, and he's put the time into it. Wow. And I know my techniques. I don't think there's many people who know much more about the techniques I do, but the techniques I don't do, find a good blue belt. He would know it better because he does it day in, day out, all the time. So yeah, I know every technique, or not every technique, but I know I could demonstrate these techniques, but most of them I don't do well because they're not part of my A game. I know how to defend them, but I'm not going to be able to show you how to do it better than a blue belt when it is their game. Because
I love that view, man. I love that view. Yeah, it's brilliant.
And I think that's also what can be quite overwhelming for people in the beginning, like white and blue belt, because there's just so much information. And like you said, you've just got to kind of extract the things that are going to work the best for you.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's right or not, but sometimes when we're learning a technique in class, especially if I'm partnered with another female, sometimes I'll say, look, let's do this technique. But to be honest, we're probably never going to use this because this isn't going to work for our body type. Like it's just not.
Oh, that's right.
It's not. So there's just so much out there, but you just take those things that you need and then kind of put the rest to the back, way back at the back of the brain. We've only got about 2.5 minutes left, Joseph. So just conscious of time, and you've given us such a wealth of knowledge. Like it's been amazing. We could have done another 2. Maybe we'll get your brother and you back on together, and we'll do because we haven't had brothers.
You should talk to George. As I was saying to you guys, he's had a lot of injuries, and he's really, really good. He's a purple belt, but I think he should be brown. He's been around forever, and he's my training partner, my drilling partner. So he knows my game back to front. I know his game back to front, and
awesome.
Yeah, he's really, really good.
Yeah. Do you have any final words for our listeners? Any parting thoughts?
Just keep going. That's the thing with jiu-jitsu. I think just don't stop. And I think Kim, you're right at the start. Don't go 12 times a week because you'll only do it for a year or two. You need to go 3 or 4 times a week, but do it for 20 years. And if you do that, anyone can get a black belt. It's worth getting. And it's a fun journey. Jiu-jitsu is a lot of fun. Marking around, coming up with new strategies, and joking with your mates. So yeah, it's a great sport to do and still be part of. And hopefully, we'll do another podcast in 10 years, and I'm still doing jiu-jitsu. The joints are still holding up. So fingers crossed.
Awesome, brother.
Fantastic. Awesome. Thank you so much. We'll have this episode out in a couple of weeks. I think we've got 1 or 2 others in the pipeline in the meantime. But if you could share this on your social media, that'll be awesome. We're a little podcast trying to grow to get bigger. And thank you very much for giving up your time, and look forward to seeing you on the mats.
No, it was a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, mate. Cheers. Catch you later. Bye.
Bye.